Welcome to the Daily Influence, where our mission is to deliver a daily dose of positive influence that can uplift you personally or be shared within your sphere of influence. While not every episode may directly apply to your unique circumstances, we strive to provide insights and inspiration relevant to most people's daily, weekly, and monthly lives. Whether you are tuning in during the morning, noon, or night, the Daily Influence is here for you. Listen, share, and embrace the power of influence in your life.
Hello, and welcome to another edition of the Daily Influence. I am Gregg Koleno with the Daily Influence and IA Business Advisors, and I'm so glad you're here joining us today as I jump into a conversation with one of my favorite people, Mary Griffin of the I Am Team series. She is a co-author of our books. She writes our blogs. She has been an amazing human that I am deeply grateful for. Mary, thank you so much for being here today.
Yes, Greg, thank you so much for inviting me. I really love the podcast. I love the direction you have been taking it with bringing all these new voices in and sharing more positivity. So I am really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome, and thank you for those sweet words. I appreciate it. Mary, do you want to share a little bit about yourself to our listeners before we jump in?
Definitely. So like Greg mentioned, I am a co-author of the book series. My biggest contribution was in the second book, Positive Influence. I primarily wrote the chapter on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Other than that, I do a lot of the edit. I do most of the editing work and the rearranging, making sure that it flows really nicely for you all and that it makes sense. In my free time, I really like to do art projects. I have been painting and doing freehand coloring with colored pencils and markers. I have a dog. His name is Bilbo. He is 7 years old. He used to come to the office with me when I worked for IA Business Advisors full time. And I live in the city with my partner, Spencer, and we have been married for what year is it? We've been married for 2 years, but we've been together for 9 years. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Mary. And for those of you who have just only listened to our podcast and are not aware that we have a book series, we have 2 books out, which you can find on Amazon. We'll link them in the show notes for you. And we have our 3rd book coming out later this month. And they're all really wonderful books about helping you find, be, and build your influence. So thank you for that, Mary.
Yes, thank you.
Mary, can you tell us about a specific moment or experience where you felt you made a significant positive impact on someone's life?
My most recent experience was over the winter. My partner Spencer and I decided to make care packages for those experiencing homelessness in our city. So we did a lot of research online to find out what items people who experience homelessness need. Things like socks, Ziploc bags or waterproof bags, toothpaste, soap, toothbrushes, easy to chew foods or portable foods. And I could really go on. The list is a lot. But we decided over, I think it was December because it was around Christmas time, to put together care packages for those experiencing homelessness and handing them out when we saw someone who was really in need in our city. So in Chicago, the homeless population is definitely growing, especially now that we're getting better weather. So it's more apparent. And, I can't help everyone and I can't do everything, but I do know that I can do a little bit, and that by making those care packages and putting kids' toys in there, or teddy bears and things that even kids who are with their parents need, that's something that I can do to spread some real good material positivity in the world.
Wow, I love that so much, Mary. What a positive influence you are having on those people. I actually have someone that I have met through my networking. Her name is Carolyn, who started a nonprofit organization. I need to introduce you to her because the nonprofit is all about that. putting together
awesome.
packages for people experiencing homelessness. And they get donations. They got Bombas socks donated to them. They get hats and gloves donated. And they put together these backpacks. The name of the organization is escaping me right now, but I'll get you that information. And for those of you listening, I will put it in the show notes as well.
I love that. Thank you.
You're welcome. That is amazing. Mary, what advice would you give to someone who wants to make a difference but may not know where to start?
My advice is to just start. You don't have to be perfect. You don't have to overthink doing the right thing. It's really important to just be yourself, be authentic, do your best every day. I highly recommend, if you really don't know where to start, possibly reading the 4 Agreements. It is this really beautiful book, and I will quickly summarize it for you. The 4 Agreements are being impeccable with your word, not taking things personally, not taking assumption or not making assumptions, and then always doing your best. And I really rely on that last one, always doing your best, because that is really all that matters. And I think sometimes we can become paralyzed by the idea of doing something or the idea of starting. And we have these voices in our heads that are like, say hi to this person or hold this person. And sometimes we ignore that. And by ignoring that, like, we're really ignoring who we are at the core. And you need to just stay true to that voice. Be authentic to yourself. Just try to be kind, and really don't worry about perfection, because that's not achievable.
I love that, Mary. Thank you for sharing that. And we will link that to that book in the show notes as well, for those of you that want to check that book out as well. I haven't read that one, so I'll add it to my
really
list.
short.
Okay.
It's really short. I was able to read it in about 4 nights, and I don't read that much every night, but it's very digestible, and I find it very helpful, something that I rely on when I feel stressed or anxious. Just going back to that 4th one, just do my best, and that's all I can do.
Sounds like that book had a positive influence on you.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Mary, how do you maintain your own sense of positivity and motivation, especially during challenging times or when faced with negativity?
When faced with negativity and experiencing challenging times, the biggest thing that I do is I take a little bit of space for myself to just process what's going on around me. And I affirm that what I'm experiencing, other people experience too. I'm not the only one who experiences anxiety or grief or depression or sadness or frustration. That's something that we all experience. Like, human emotions are not isolated. So I affirm that I'm not alone. I affirm that it's okay to be experiencing those things. And I heavily rely on faith. I just know that I've had enough experience in life to see that even when things go down, that things will have to come back up. And I have a little bit of appreciation and a little bit of love for even like the bad experiences, because without them, you wouldn't have anything to contrast against your good experiences. If everything were just good all the time, you wouldn't be able to define that. So, I find that in the challenging times, that's when I learn the most, even though sometimes it's hard. But just have some love for it, have faith that things will get better, and take the time to affirm that what you're going through is natural and that you're not alone.
That is brilliant advice, Mary. You're absolutely right. Those times that we have challenges or failures or those lows, that is a time where we can really learn and grow. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
Mary, what messages or words of encouragement would you like to share with our listeners who aspire to make a positive difference in the world?
I'm actually going to share a very short story, and it is a very short story that inspires me to just do better and do my best every day. And you may have heard it because I think it's pretty popular, but you might not have heard it. So I'm just going to tell you anyways. It's a story about a man on a beach. And he's walking along the beach, and he sees another man in front of him who continues to stop, bend down, and throw something into the water. The man walking is very curious. He's like, why is this person stopping on their walk and bending down and throwing something into the water? So because the man in front of him is stopping so much, the guy behind catches up and finally sees that this man is throwing into the water beached starfish. And the man says, why are you throwing the starfish back into the water? You can clearly see that there are so many starfish that are beached here. You're not going to be able to do them all. And the first man bent down, picked up a starfish, and threw it back into the water and says it matters to that one. And I think that that is so important because what you do does matter. Like, don't ever put yourself down. Don't ever say that you're not enough, because you are enough. Like, what you put out into the world is enough. You don't have to have a lot of money. You don't have to have a lot of time. Just be a good person, be your best self, be authentic to yourself, and know that it does matter to someone, even if it's just one. That does make a huge difference.
I love that story. I haven't heard that story before, and it's very touching. Just by doing something for one is enough. Right. That's amazing. You could really have a big impact. It's like walking down the street when you smile at someone.
If you think about if we all thought this way, if we all did our best, if we all tried to be kind, like how much of a difference that would make in the world.
This world would be such a better place. Thank you for sharing that story with us, Mary.
Yes, of course.
Are there any other closing remarks you'd like to share with our listeners?
I think I shared like the bulk of what I believe, but just to recap, like it's okay to be yourself. Make sure to show yourself compassion and love, even for moments when you think, oh, I could have been nicer then, or I was kind of snotty, or like I said the wrong thing, like we're all human. That's okay. You can do better tomorrow, or you can apologize. And have grace for yourself, have grace for others, love yourself, love each other. Just keep doing your best. And thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for adding more positivity to this podcast and to the I In Team series, because Gregg, you really are so fantastic. And I'm really happy to know you as well.
Thank you, Mary. I just love you. You are such an amazing human with such a positive influence on me and so many others. Thank you for being here today. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom with me, with our listeners. And thank you to our listeners for joining us for another episode of the Daily Influence. We are grateful for each one of you, and we hope you have an amazingly positive day. Bye-bye.
Bye.